It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance.
You want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station.
Do you have white privilege?
I believe everybody at Georgetown definitely does that is white.
100%. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think the fact that I don't need to think about my race, just going about my daily life, is a sign of white privilege.
If we're white, subliminally, we have privilege over other minorities.
The biggest privilege white people have is not institutional access. Arguably, the biggest privilege that white people have is not having to be hyper aware of their identity at all times.
Today I learned that white privilege is not being rich, but white privilege is being able to live your life without thinking about the skin that you're in. Ladies and gentlemen, white privilege, defined by white people, is what I needed to see on the internet. No, because I know white people have privilege. After saying white people define white privilege, I got to understand that probably there's hope in this generation, in 2025 and above, that we have white people in society that actually understand the depth of the privilege that comes with their skin tone.
White privilege does not mean that just because you're white, you are going to be more privileged than every person of color. It just means that any struggles or misfortunes you do experience are not caused by your whiteness.
Check your privilege edition. Put a finger down if you have been called a racial slur. Put a finger down if you've been followed in a store unnecessarily. Put a finger down if someone has crossed the street to avoid passing you. Put a finger down if you've had someone clench their purse in an elevator with you. Put a finger down if you've had someone step off of an elevator to keep from riding with you. Put a finger down if you've been accused of not being able to afford something expensive. Put a finger down if you have had fear in your heart when being stopped by the police. Put a finger down if you have never been given a pass on a citation that you deserved. Put a finger down if you have been stopped or detained by police for no valid reason. Put a finger down if you have been bullied solely because of your race. Put a finger down if you have been denied service solely because of the color of your skin. Put a finger down if you've ever had to teach your child how not to get killed by the police. Any fingers left? That's privilege.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. My name is Matkonda Esther. If you're new here, hi, welcome. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, like, comment, and share. Let me know what you think in the comment section about the topic today, and that is white privilege. See, as I was scrolling on the internet, I found a video of this man explaining that he was raised poor. He fought in the WAR in Afghanistan. He was not raised with a rich life privilege. But then he goes down to understanding that the environment he grew up in, seeing black people, the overseas trip that he had, representing America in Afghanistan, the people that he found there, he got to realize he has privilege.
Yesterday, my son was playing football at school with some white kids and some black kids, and one of the black kids missed a catch. And one of the white kids said out loud, "Well, I bet if it was a certain type of food," I'm not going to say it, you know what I mean, "he would have caught it." And my son got in the car with my wife to go home and asked her what that meant. And it breaks my heart that we continue and will always have to continue to talk about these things with our kids. And it's so important that we do, but it's so sad. Racism, microaggressions, homophobia, humanity, how we treat people. And this stuff is right in front of their face on the football field, in elementary school, good neighborhood. It doesn't matter. It's everywhere. And it made me think about white privilege. And it made me think about the fact that I think I've had it wrong. This whole time I've thought white privilege was about money, and it was about getting into college and getting jobs. And it is those things. But what I don't think I really understood was that white privilege was going through my entire life, never having to know what that kid felt like.
The biggest privilege white people have is not institutional access. Arguably, the biggest privilege that white people have is not having to be hyper aware of their identity at all times. But keep in mind, I said hyper aware. That doesn't mean that the white man doesn't know he's a white man and the white woman doesn't know she's a white woman. What it means is that they don't choose to or have to compartmentalize their identities constantly for survival or social proof. In the African community, in the black community, we are too aware of our identities as a result of our circumstances under colonialism, imperialism, and racism in this world. We spend most of our lives playing these word games about who's really black, who's light-skinned, who's dark-skinned, who's brown-skinned, who's really African, who's African-American, who's ADOS, who's South African, who's really African, who's East African. We waste our time and our talent playing these identity politics, when the real politics we need to be playing is the politics of material acquisition and international relations. In no way should we deny our experiences under colorism, under texturism, under tribalism. But if we spend our lifetimes, our efforts, our talents, and our energy focused towards these things, then what room do we have? What space do we have to acquire material conditions for our community? The light skins got stories, the brown skins got stories, the dark skins got stories, the African Americans got stories, the Caribbean Africans got stories, the immigrants got stories, the continental Africans got stories, the European Africans got stories. And again, I will never deny any of our experiences. But we tell these stories and we obsess over these stories and we build our identity upon these stories, but we never tell the story of our material conditions. If we're not addressing our stories under imperialism, I think the other stuff can wait. If we're not addressing our stories under the European patriarchy, I think the other stuff can wait. If we're not addressing our stories under colonialism, I think the other stuff can wait. If we're not addressing our stories under the prison industrial complex, under the healthcare system that disproportionately affects our women, I think the other stuff can wait. Which again, going back to the point of my video, is the reason why white people are ahead in this country. Because while they have the privilege to focus on their material conditions, you're worried about, do people like you or not?
And when I saw this other clip of a guy asking at a school, do you think you have white privilege? Seeing the kids understand their privilege and they're all narrowing it down to the fact that they don't have to think about their skin tone to be a factor when it comes to certain things that are bad. You know, well, somebody stole, because they're white, nobody thinks they stole. So they understand the privilege that comes with their skin tone.
You want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station. There were 8 of us kids. Don't come at me like I grew up in some quiet backwoods town either. We weren't hearing deer rifles, we were hearing 9mm and Glocks on a nightly basis. Not because we were hunting, because we were dodging stray bullets in the inner city. I had a baby as a teenager, thought maybe I could break the cycle, went to college, flunked out quick. Life was swinging before I even had a chance to plant my feet. Then the military came knocking, promised me structure, a future, and a way out. What I got? Another flavor of hell. Straight out of basic, they shipped me to Afghanistan. 19 years old, couldn't buy a beer back home, but I could carry a rifle, kick indoors, and watch friends die in pieces. I came home to a wife who had cheated on me while I deployed, ended in divorce, missed my baby's first steps, first words, first everything. I got the title Dad, but only for 2 days every other week when the courts allowed me. So I drank, I numbed it out, I drowned it in alcohol and women, hopped from job to job, security, government contracts, even worked with the feds for a minute, but it all fell apart. I ended up homeless, ashamed, alone, and broken. Now, I've been sober for 4 years, been through more therapy than most folks can stomach, read hundreds of books, and here's what I figured out. As bad as I have had it, if I was black, I probably wouldn't have survived it. That ain't an opinion, that's truth. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 38% of the prison population. 1 in 3 black boys born today, they're expected to end up behind bars. That ain't by accident. That is policy. That's centuries of systemic racism passed off as justice. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it rebranded it. It says slavery is legal as punishment for a crime. That's why we got corporations making billions off of prison labor while folks inside earn cents an hour if they're lucky. That clause was written to target black Americans, and it's still doing exactly that. Now I run an organization called West Virginia Fights Back. We feed people, we take care of people. No strings, no red tape, no begging for scraps. We take care of our own because the government won't. My dream? A Fights Back chapter in every damn state. Abolish the prison industrial complex. Burn the cage down. Build something real in its place. Fred Hampton said, you can jail a revolutionary, but you cannot jail the revolution. This is not about shame. This is about responsibility. If you've had the privilege of not being targeted by the system, you've got the duty to help tear it down.
It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance, let me explain. I want you to think of the kind of person who would put on a White Lives Matter sticker on the back of their Ford pickup. Why do they do that? Is it all racism? Well, yeah. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. White Americans basically have no culture. Not in the same way we see other people. And we white people, we know this inherently, and it scares us. We know we have our regional cultures. Our cities, our sports teams, and families all give us our regional culture, but being white basically means nothing, or generally at least nothing positive. White people throughout American history are almost always seen on the side of the oppressors. Not all white people, but most of us. And this sucks to learn. It's even harder to internalize. And it's why white people usually don't accept this, because it makes us feel a deep sense of guilt. I think it's why white people say nonsense like, I can't be racist, I have black friends. Sure, you probably don't see black people as objects, but you're refusing to accept the role our people have had in their oppression. That guilt we feel is our responsibility for the actions of our ancestors. It's why white people refuse to say that black people deserve reparation, because it admits our guilt. But black people deserve reparations. It just makes sense logically. You can sue someone for scratching your car, but black people can't sue the American government for the enslavement of their people. My people are arresting and deporting Mexican families from this country. Think about that. We are telling people that they are not allowed on the land we stole. Let's go a step further. White people stole a sacred land site from the people indigenous to this land and then carved 4 white people's faces on it, most of which were slave owners. I mean, Mount Rushmore is a place that we look at and we're like, oh, cool, giant faces. But to other people, it's a giant form of oppression, and admitting that and coming to terms with that sucks. We suck, dude. My people really and truly suck. Not all of us contributed to this oppression, but we are all a part of it. And this will mostly sound like virtue signaling. It will mostly sound like, look at how rough we are. But there is a reality to admitting this guilt and being honest with it. Because white people are afraid to do this. And we're afraid to admit it because my people are weak. White people are weak. We have power we have given ourselves and put down the cultures that are stronger than us because we know that we're weak. If white Americans were oppressed the same way black, native, or Mexican American people are, we would crack like glass. Our culture and identity as white people is so meaningless that we do everything in our power to keep other people down so that we don't break from having someone else on top. I think that's why you see white Americans championing white pride, not just out of ignorance or racism, but it's because they are scared. They're scared to come to terms with their guilt, scared to admit they're wrong, and terrified to acknowledge that we may have all the societal, economic, and political power, but as a people we are weak. But this isn't the way it has to be forever. I have hope that one day my people will finally take responsibility for what we have done. I hope that we'll collectively accept our role in the oppression of our non-white brothers and sisters and finally take action. And it will take the action of us white folks. It's not just non-white people that have to fight for their rights. It's us too fighting for them, because our cross to bear is being born white. Being born with the skin color of the oppressors means that we have to fight to be nothing like them. We're not near that right now. America is in a tumultuous stage where it very much does not feel like white people are acknowledging where they went wrong. But I want to have hope, and I refuse to accept that one day justice won't prevail. Collectively, we can all shed the shadow of oppression and share this place together. And that's the message I want to end with. I want to be hopeful that one day oppression will be something taught in history class, something that we don't have to see ourselves in. That's what I hope. Anyway, I want to be optimistic in the end.
What is white privilege? White privilege refers to the advantages that come from being categorized as white. Now, if you're white, you probably don't notice that when you go in the store, the cashier doesn't follow you around. If you're white, you probably don't notice that when you're walking down the street, people smile at you instead of looking at you suspiciously. And if you're white, you probably never thought about the fact that people don't ask you if you can speak English. You probably think that this is just how things are for everyone. Now, white privilege can be hard to notice, but it's still really important to talk about it. For example, in 2015, white Stanford student Brock Turner was found sexually assaulting a semi-conscious woman behind a dumpster. When the case went to trial, the jury found Turner guilty, but the judge was hesitant to give him a long sentence. The judge only gave him 6 months in jail because the judge said, a long prison sentence would have a severe impact on him, such a promising young boy. Because of Turner's whiteness and class privilege, the judge had more sympathy for him than he does for his other Black and Latino defendants that he sees on a regular basis. Recently, Elizabeth Holmes, who's white, was sentenced to 11 years in prison for fraud. However, since she's pregnant, the judge decided that he's going to wait and she doesn't have to start serving her sentence until after she has the baby. This sounds eminently humane. Unfortunately, it's not a privilege granted to most Black, Latina, and Native American pregnant women who are also convicted of crimes.
I wanted to prove to myself that white privilege is not real. So I teamed up with a white friend of mine, and we went to a store, and we were going to both steal one piece of candy, but do it in an obvious manner so we easily get caught. We both take the candy, and we both try to exit the store. They catch both of us and tell us that we have to pay for it. I immediately say the words, "Is it because I'm Black that you think that I'm stealing something?" The store employee's face now changed. They didn't want to deal with it. Now the situation's bigger than it is. Even though they caught me, the situation is now bigger than it was. So the employee tries to argue, and the manager says, "Let him go." But my white friend is now banned from that store. I displayed Black privilege in pure form, just right there. We both stole the same thing. I just had an advantage. I had a trump card.
Did you know that white women were 40% of the slave owners in the US? So when Black women say they would choose a bear over a white woman, this is one of the many reasons why. And keep in mind, women couldn't own a bank account until the 70s. Women couldn't own their own business until after I was alive. Without having a whole lot of rights, women were still 40% of the slave owners. And if you need more examples, during my time at corporate America, all of my biggest haters and dissenters were all white women. Okay, not the white men, white women, because we were taught that there's only so many positions for women at the top, and we had to fight each other for them. Rather than there being competition between like everyone at the company, women felt like they had to fight between themselves to get those spots. The majority of my biggest bullies in life have been older white women. Okay, and a lot of times those have been in work environments where I have been actively pushed down by other women. So the next time you get your panties in a bunch when a Black woman says that she trusts a white man over a white woman, just try to remember some of these examples.
And I got to realize this is very true. This is very true. There are some things that white people don't have to worry about because of their skin tone. They don't have to worry about going to the store and then someone is following them. You never see that. You never get to see that, they were supposed to go somewhere and then they were put on a side. And I was like, And then I saw this video of the late Twitch and his family. Yeah, remember Twitch, the dancer? Yeah. And I looked at this video of Twitch and I went like, oh my God, this is a man who is black with a white woman and she's there looking, understanding how much privileged she is to be white. It was not even about money. It was not about wealth. It was not about I drive a better car than a black person. It was the fact that she never had to be cautious because of her skin tone. And ladies and gentlemen, I need you to let me know in the comment section. With the way the world is going on, are we perhaps going to see a change in the near future, probably in the next 10 years, where black people live less cautious about their skin tone?